Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, the show that gives you a virtual seat at the bar for the real conversations that happen between entrepreneurs. I'm interviewing all kinds of business owners, from those just a few years into freelancing to CEOs helming 9-figure companies. If you've ever worried that everyone else just seems to get it and you're missing something or messing things up, this show is for you. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey, and welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is my new friend, Jeremy Miner. Say hi, Jeremy.
Angie Coley.
Yes.
It's an honor.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Well, we're going to jump into this. No fanfare. Tell us about your business.
So seventh level, we're a sales training organization, and we train everything from Fortune 500 all the way to SMB, all the way down to individual solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, salespeople, how to sell more of their products and services so they can help their prospects actually get where they want to go.
That's so amazing. I think there's so much, I'm struggling to find the word for it, but so much avoidance, so much fear of sales, especially in early stage entrepreneurship. Even more advanced people I know are like, I hate sales. What would you say to people?
Well, it's not their fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they've been forced to learn skills that work against human behavior, that actually trigger the objections that they're getting, that actually trigger sales resistance and make the salesperson and the prospect feel very uncomfortable. That's why they don't want to. Because if we're doing something that would make us feel uncomfortable, then we don't want to do it. Right. So we want to learn techniques that actually work with human behavior, that trigger the prospect to want to open up, to want to engage. And we learn how to do that where the prospect doesn't push back to us all the time. Selling becomes pretty dang easy and really, really profitable.
Mm-hmm. I think that's been the biggest surprise to me is I recently took on a business partner over the summer, and sales has always been a struggle for me. I know I can do the work. I know I can make people multiple millions of dollars. I have done it. Then it comes to getting on the phone and telling people how I can help them. And I go, maybe $10,000. Maybe I could cut a special deal for you this one time only. And I start backtracking and unselling myself. Oh, it's horrible.
No bueno. But hey, it's not your fault. You were forced to learn a certain way. And sometimes, hey, this is with all of us. Sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. You know, when I'm at a keynote or something, I might ask the audience, like, what is the biggest problem in sales? And people will tell me random things. And I'm like, the biggest problem in sales is the problem that you don't know you have. Because if you don't know what your problem is, then how on earth do you even know how to change something you don't even know that you have, right? That's the biggest problem in sales. So a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs and salespeople think you can only sell this way because this is what I've been taught. It's the right way. Sales is a numbers game. I'm going to try to, push them, manipulate them, pressure them into buying. But that's what average salespeople do in our day and age. Look, if you want to be a professional salesperson that makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in commissions or more, or a business owner that does that, if you're a solopreneur, if you're a big business owner and you've got sales teams and you want to 3 to 4 times the revenue and profit margins, then we have to acquire more advanced skills to be able to get to that level. Because what we're saying now, what we're asking now has gotten us here. But how can it ever get us up here if we do the same things, if we say the same thing? It can't.
Right.
It's not like your salespeople can work twice as long as they already are. They already work 10 hours a day. Are they going to work 20 hours a day? That's not realistic. So it's not the quantity of conversations that we should be worried about. It's the quality of the conversation that we should really care about, and what we're saying and asking. And here's one thing that we all have to understand. This is just behavioral science 101. So my background in college was behavioral science, human psychology. I geek out on this stuff. According to the data, within the first 7 to 12 seconds, this is very quick, within the first 7 to 12 seconds of any sales interaction you will ever be involved in, whether that's on the phone, whether that's on Zoom, whether that's in a home, whether that's in a boardroom meeting or on a doorstep, it doesn't matter. Your prospects are subconsciously picking up on social cues from you. Like when you know what I mean? Like when you go to a networking event and somebody comes up and starts talking to you, what do you automatically do? Your brain's like, who is this person? Are they a threat to me? Are they trying to sell me something? That's what you think.
Or the 100th LinkedIn random solicitation I've gotten of the day.
That's
Would you like to add 5 more clients to your bottom line by the end of the week?
Exactly, right. So the answer is obviously yes. That's why it's so cheesy. But that comes from our reptilian part of our brain. That's been wired into human beings since the first human being was put on this planet, whenever that was. Okay. Because we were wired to protect ourselves from wild animals like tigers eating us, right? Things come and gradually progressed. We started to put up walls of resistance against what? Salespeople trying to sell us something all the time, right? So that's the reptilian part of our brain saying, is this person safe or not? Are they trying to sell me or not, right? So your prospects are picking up on your verbal and nonverbal cues based on your tonality and what you are saying and or asking that triggers their brain to react in one of two ways. Now, here's the scary part, okay? If you come across aggressive in your conversations, like needy, like, when you're on the phone, you feel the need you have. Well, they feel the same thing, right? And especially if you come across attached and you don't understand the right questions asked, you don't understand the right tone, it actually triggers the human brain to go into what's called fight or flight mode. Now, you've heard of fight or flight, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We all hear about it. But do we know that we're actually the ones triggering? It's not them triggering it. We are triggering it by what we're saying to them. All right. So if we trigger fight mode, that's typically in more of an A-type personality where they say things like this. Hey, dude, just get to the point. Like, how much is this going to cost me? Or I'm not interested. Or, hey, we already have somebody for that. Like, I don't need to talk about that. Or, oh, I know I booked on the call, but I'm really busy. Can you call me back this weekend? That's because you triggered fight mode in that prospect. Now, if they have more of a passive personality, you're typically going to trigger flight mode. And that's where they go through the whole sales call. They stay surface level with you. They give you like 1 or 2 or 3 word answers from your questions. And then at the end, they say, oh, this sounds really good. I just need some time to pray about it. I need to think this over. I need to talk with my spouse. Can I call you back in a week, a month, a year later? And surprise, surprise, they never call back, right?
Yep.
That's because you're triggering fight or flight mode. Now, once you learn what we're going to talk a little bit about today, it's called NEPQ. It stands for Neuro-Emotional Persuasion Questioning. And you learn, because these are all acquired skills. Nobody's born with advanced questioning skills. Or is anybody born on here with advanced tonality skills? Anybody born with advanced objection prevention skills? No, these are acquired skills you learn, right? So once you learn, we train all this. Once you learn how to come across more neutral, more unbiased, like, you're not quite sure if you can even help yet because you don't even know anything about them in the first 30 seconds. If you come across more collective and especially detached, you understand the right questions, you understand the right tone, how to ask those, it triggers the brain to become curious enough where they feel like they want to engage. And the reason why they feel like they want to engage is because you're triggering them to let their guard down, because you're triggering trust in their brain rather than them trying to get rid of you. See the difference?
I love that. I mean, and it's similar to what I have coached freelancers through for years, which is one, to repeat to yourself before the call, no one client, no one contract. Don't need this, but I want it if it's the right person for me and I can help them. And I was like, that changes the energy going into the call because you're just trying to find out if you can actually help.
Well, here's the thing. I love that. Here's the thing. And I love where you're going that. So what we want to do now, do we know that we can pretty much help every prospect that's on with us? Right. But your prospect doesn't know that. Right.
Yes.
So to get on those conversations, we have to come across more detached from the expectations of making the sale. Instead, focus on whether or not we can help them. Right. Now, do I mean when you get into a conversation that it's not your goal to make a sale or to move that forward to a sale? Hell no, obviously I don't mean that, right? Your goal is to make a sale with everybody you're talking to, unless you quite literally cannot help them, which is few and far between, right? Realistic, right? Especially if they book on your calendar or they're an outbound lead. But the moment you have to keep that to yourself, because the moment your prospect feels that you are just trying to sell them is the moment they do what? They start to emotionally shut down. When they emotionally shut down, they stay surface level with you. And that's why you're getting so many objections at the end of your conversations.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I think underlines curiosity because I've seen that happen in my business partner and why I brought her on. She's an excellent salesperson. And I asked her one day, would you ever teach your sales process? Would you have like a sales script? And she goes, I don't have a script. I have conversations. And I think that circles back nicely with exactly what you're saying. I'm sure she has some points that she talks about and some questions that she asks everybody. I don't know. I'm detached from the sales process at that point, and that makes me. But she gets to talk to people and she gets to get curious.
You definitely want to have a sales structure. Like, you know, if you're having a company that has a bunch of salespeople, you don't want them all just saying random things and winging it, right? That's not, I know that's not what you're meaning. You want to have a step-by-step structure, right? Like, you know, what type of connecting questions are you going to ask to take the focus off you and put it on them? What type of situation questions are you going to ask to help them and you find out what their real situation is? Because most of your prospects don't know what their real situation is when you first start talking. They might have an idea, but they really don't know. They don't know what their real problems are, right? They just don't. They might know they have a problem, but they don't really understand how bad that problem really is. Or maybe they don't understand the consequences of what happens if they don't do anything about solving the problem, right? So learn NEPQ. Once you learn advanced questioning and tonality, not only are you able to help them find one problem, but now you're able to help them find 2 or 3 or 4 or maybe 5 other problems that they didn't even realize they had before they got in that conversation. And when you're able to help them find that they have that many problems, not by telling them, because you tell them, goes in one ear out the other. You're biased, you're the salesperson. But by your questioning ability allows them to see and feel problems they didn't think they had. How do they start to view you? Well, they start to view you as the expert, as the trusted authority. Whereas they view all these other salespeople that go into their pitch as just another salesperson trying to stuff their solution down their throat. And who are they going to buy from? Every single time. You see what I mean?
I love that. Yeah, I'm scribbling furious notes because I love that. The other side of this, approaching it from a need standpoint. Here's what I need to sell. I need to land this project. Is that you come into the call already thinking of what you want to sell them, right? The energy is all off. Whereas if you're coming to it with can I help this person? You might identify even more issues that you can help them with beyond what you thought.
And we call that problem finding, right? Because like if you're watching us right now, I don't know if your episodes are audio or just video, but if you have some people watching us on video on YouTube later or whatever, you're going to see these books behind me here in my office, okay? Every single book behind me says you have to be really good and you have to be a good problem solver. And I like that. But if you really think about problem solving, that can't really happen until they purchase your product or service. How do you solve their problems? How do you become a problem solver without them purchasing from you? You can't, right? So you have to be much better at problem finding. And what that means is helping the prospect find problems that they didn't know they had. That gives you a massive competitive advantage over all the other salespeople selling them anything that are distracting them day in and day out, because what those salespeople are doing is they're only selling to the prospect's needs, what the prospect thinks they need in the beginning. They're not selling to the prospect's real problems that they help the prospect find that they didn't know they had. Let me give you an example of this, because when I say this, people are like, no, Jeremy, I'm supposed to sell to the prospect's needs. Okay, but the problem is your prospects don't really know what they need when you first, I mean, do you get on a sales call and everybody knows exactly what they need and exactly all their problems?
No, they usually have a vague idea of what they need and what they want, and it winds up being the entirely wrong thing to focus on.
Exactly, right? So let me give you an analogy for everybody like doubting me right now. Let's say that you wake up tomorrow morning, you're like, oh my gosh, like I've got this crazy migraine. My head hurts so bad, it's pounding. I need to go to urgent care and I need to get some medication to take that migraine away because that's what I think I need. I'm like, you know what? The copay is going to be $50 after insurance. The medication will be $50. Okay, my budget's going to be $100. That's going to solve my problem. That's what you think you need, right? You go to the doctor. She starts asking you different questions about when the pain started, what the pain feels like, what the pain's preventing you from being able to focus on and do. And her questioning starts to help you understand that maybe you have a much bigger problem than you originally thought you had. And then she says, you might want to do a CAT scan. And then you do a CAT scan and it comes back that you have a terminal tumor. And you've got 2 weeks to live. And now to have that surgery is going to be $2 million. and your insurance is only going to cover 80%, leaving you $400,000 to pay for. So the hell with a $100 budget that you thought would solve your problem. Now you've got, oh crap, I got to go out and get 400 grand so I live, because now you know what you need. You wouldn't have known that if the doctor had come in. Oh, you got a migraine? Okay, here you go. Go to Walgreens. I'll see you later. If you would have sold what they thought they need, that person would have died, right?
Yes.
So analogy that, oh yeah, that makes sense. So you don't sell the needs, you sell to the real problems you help them find.
Well, and I think that's an interesting analogy to use too, because I know a lot of folks in the early and growth stage, a lot of folks that might be listening would have some sort of price sensitivity or a tendency to spend somebody else's money and go, okay, well, we've diagnosed a much bigger problem, but I don't know if this person can afford it. And the example that you used for that is just perfect. Like, how painful is this problem? How much do I want to solve it? I will find money. I will find resources. I will find time if this is a big enough problem, even if I wasn't aware of it.
And Angie, here's the thing. It's not like the money doesn't exist. Like, the money's already there. It's just a priority of where they're currently spending that same money. So their sales ability allows them to take whatever they were spending that money on, like cable, just crap that they spend every day, and then reassign that to your solution as their number one priority. Now, they can only do that by you helping them build a massive gap in their mind from your questioning ability that allows them to see where they are. We call that their current state compared to where they really want to be. We call that their objective state. What's the gap in the middle? All of these newfound problems that your questioning ability has allowed them to see they have that they didn't know they had before you started talking to them. And that makes your solution a priority for their money now. That's it.
Now that's amazing. I'm gonna throw a fast one at you though, because I imagine you didn't come out of the womb as an expert salesperson. Would you say that this was a smooth process to learn this, or did you have any stumbling blocks along the way?
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned earlier, no one is born with advanced questioning skills. Nobody, is anybody on here born with advanced tonality or objection prevention? No, these are acquired skills. Now, my background in college was behavioral science and human psychology, right? So what I did when I first got into sales, I got my first sales job. I think I was almost 22, 21, 22 in that range. Company gave you a script, gave me some books by what I call the old sales gurus, and basically go make some sales. It's going to be easy. And I found out very, very quickly within the first door that I knocked on, because my first job was door-to-door sales.
Oh, wow.
Selling that way that these guys in the books were telling me didn't really work that well. In fact, a lot of the things they said to do actually triggered more resistance, triggered prospects to emotion shut down even more, especially with like rebuttals with objections. And so I'm like, okay, that doesn't work. That kind of sucks. I feel beat up every day. I've got anxiety. Even if I made a sale, they might cancel because I pushed them into it. And I'm like, this sucks. I don't want to be in sales forever if it's going to be like this. So I'm like, how do I take what my behavioral science professors are teaching me about the human brain and why a human being makes a decision to go left or go right or up or down? What triggers a prospect to decide certain things in their life, right? That's kind of persuasion. And so I'm like, how do I take that theory and wrap it into a sales process? And that's what I started doing, right? And I started learning how to use techniques that trigger the prospect to want to engage, to let their guard down, where they felt comfortable opening up to me. Like I was the trusted authority anointed by God himself to get on that call with them. By the end of the call, where they didn't even know me from Adam, they're like, this person, like they felt like by giving me money, my company money, was us doing them a favor to getting them the results they want. And that's when you truly start to understand that you are mastering the art of persuasion, when your prospects don't even feel like they were on a sales call. They feel like, wow, they're doing me a favor by me paying them to solve my problems. Okay. When your prospects feel like they're just on these sales calls with you, it's a really yucky feeling, right? Everybody knows what I'm talking about. It makes you feel, you don't feel very comfortable, right? Because you don't like it. So I started learning those type of techniques, and sales went up and up and up and up. And eventually, I think the direct sales organization ranked me as you have to Google it. I think it's like the 43rd or 44th highest paid salesperson during my 17-year sales career. I was making multiple seven figures a year in commissions as a W-2 rep.
Oh, wow.
I retired after 17 years, took about a year and a half off from my, my jobs that I had as a salesperson, and then started 7th Level 4 years ago. So I have a little bit of understanding of behavioral science, some would say.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. And what kept you going when you hit that pivot point of like, is this what sales is like? Why am I even doing this?
Well, once I started learning how to get prospects to pull me in from just techniques that just do that, selling was really easy. So it wasn't like this feeling that most salespeople go through where they wake up and like, oh my gosh, I got to call these leads. They're just dreading picking up the phone. They're dreading to go at appointment after appointment because they go through so much rejection. I never really had to go through that because my prospects would open up, not by me saying like, hey, prospect, will you open up? It wasn't like that, but it was certain things I would ask and say that triggered that curiosity where they felt comfortable to open up. There was massive trust. I didn't get on calls like, hey, how you doing today? How's your day going? Like that's all corny. Like everybody knows that you're not genuinely interested in how their damn day's going, right? We all know that because every salesperson that's ever tried to sell us anything says what? How you doing today? They're not generally interested in how your day's going, right? So you're like, wall resistance, salesperson trying to sell me something, beep, 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 see fight or fight mode, right? So it's interesting because, we train 158 different industries, pretty much every industry on planet Earth with the different subsets we're in now. And I remember one car dealership that we trained. They're now the biggest used car dealership in all of Canada. They have about 43 locations, but when they started this about 2.5 years ago, they were just average. I think they had maybe 5 or 6 dealers. Now they have like 43. So I remember they were like, oh man, it's just so hard because, when our prospects come in the door and, we were taught to say, hey, welcome into the dealership. How can we help you? But everybody says, just looking. And I'm like, well, yeah, they're going to say that because you sound like every other car salesperson that says anything when they walk into a dealership. What do every other car dealership say? Welcome into the dealership today. How can we help you? Just looking. See, it's a knee-jerk question that they're used to. And so they give you a knee-jerk reaction. So we're going to prevent that objection from happening. So when they walk into the dealership, we're just going to tell them the objection. So when they walk in, we say, hey guys, welcome into the dealership. Are you guys just out looking around today? Yeah, we're just looking. Oh, okay. And do you guys know what you're possibly looking for? And I'm right in the first connecting question. See how we did that? Nice. I just told them the objection that they would have said. Are you guys just out looking around today? Yeah, we're out just looking. Oh, okay. And do you guys know what you're possibly looking for? And you're right into the conversation. See how easy that is?
I love that. I've done a different version of that in copywriting, which is basically written sales for years, that I call calling out the elephant in the room. Because pretending that the flaw isn't there or the concern that the customer has isn't there leads them to believe that either you're clueless or you're trying to deceive them. And so I would tell people in a form of objection busting, like, okay, is this product perfect? No, look at this thing right here that we've identified. We already know about this thing, and here is what we're doing to address it. Of course, I'm having a hard time coming up with a specific example off the top of my head. But I would tell people, if you know that there's an elephant there, a scheduling concern, a flaw in the product, just call it out.
Right.
Well, take me back to what made you start your business as it is. And you were going pretty well in your corporate job, right? And making some decent money. What made you switch to entrepreneurship?
Well, I retired. So I retired, about 5 years ago? Whether that would have been 2017, somewhere in that, or 2017, 17 and a half. And basically just kind of hung out for about a year, invested in some real estate and stuff. And I started probably the biggest thing was because everybody had always told me, you need to start your own sales training. You need to start your own sales training company. Because everybody, after I retired, they were always like, can you come in and consult for us? We'll pay you $100,000 a day. Like, come in and train our salespeople. I'm like, not interested, not interested, not interested, not interested, not interested. I'm chilling. Maybe I'll do that in 10 years when I'm old. I don't know what I want to do. But then I kept seeing all these ads on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube of all the sales gurus. And they're like, you got to do this. You got to work hard. It's all numbers game. Like, you got to close with, 1,001 closing techniques. And I'm like, man, if I would have sold that way, I would have made about 95% less than what I did. There's no way I would have been able to retire. There's no way I could have made multiple, even 7 figures in commissions with that. I mean, maybe I make low 6 figures if I'm lucky, right? And it started getting me to think like, man, all these salespeople are buying into these techniques, thinking that it's the right way when I know it's not. I mean, my background is behavioral science. I know what triggers resistance and what triggers engagement. Like it's just what you're taught, psychology. And, like the very best psychologists in the world, the reason why they charge $1,000 or $2,000 an hour is they don't tell their prospects their problems. They don't tell them what to do because that's going to go in one ear out the other. They ask certain questions that allow the prospect to tell themselves that they have their own power to change their situation. And that's why they can charge $2,000 an hour. That's the difference between the one that charges $50 and the one that charges $1,500 an hour, right? So I'm like, I got to do something about this. Like I felt compelled. I've acquired all these skills and I'm just keeping it to myself right here. One day I'm going to have to answer to God Almighty above. What if he asked me like, well, what did you do with those skill sets? Did you help anybody? No, selfish. It didn't want to work. So I jumped into the game. First year and a half, it was me and my former assistant from my old job and one part-time salesperson. We had tons of testimonies, probably at least a few thousand, but because I didn't really know how to run a business because I'd never done that before, we weren't that profitable. And so then 2.5 years ago, I brought on a CEO, business partner that's extremely talented in running companies. I brought an extremely talented chief revenue officer that's an equity partner now. We started building out a team and we went from here to like here.
Yeah. Well, and congrats on that. That's pretty freaking awesome.
We're still learning.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you pointed out learning business skills because I feel like that is something that I talk about this on the show over and over and over again. You can be good at the thing that you sell, good at the thing that you help people with, and still not have business skills.
Right. 100%.
Right. And that's a whole separate learning curve that if you don't bother learning the business skills, it's easy to convince yourself that you just suck at doing this. And it's not true.
What you want to do is you want to stay in your lane. You want to focus on your strengths and bring on a business partner and bring on when you're bootstrapping in the beginning, let's say you're bootstrapping, bring on a business partner that's really good at what you're the weakest at. Don't bring on somebody that's just as good as you are in the same thing, because I promise you won't go anywhere. Okay.
Yes.
Very best product or service. But if you don't have the right people in the right positions that have strengths in those, you ain't going anywhere. I can tell you that. Okay. Because I've seen it firsthand. So you want to bring on the right people that really, really are talented at marketing. Maybe that's your business partner and you're really, really good at sales or business. And then maybe you suck at running a business or your finances. So you eventually after you make some money in the business, you reinvest some of it and bring on a CFO or whatever. And you start building out a team that's really talented in their own little areas and you stay in your lane, you're going to have a really successful business as long as your product or service gets results for your clients.
Exactly. That's like, you can't sell shitty products here. You can't
People will find out very, very quickly. I've never seen a business last that was selling products and services where their clients were not getting results. They never last long-term, period.
And I heard one thing from one of my mentors that changed how I think about sales, which was, if you have a product or service that you know could change somebody's life for the better, how dare you not do everything in your power to get that help to them?
It's your fault if they stay in the status quo and their problems stay the same. So we have to acquire skills where we can communicate much better, because if we can't help our prospects communicate that to get them where they want to go, that's not their responsibility, it's ours. And once you start to take responsibility for your own lack of sales ability and you acquire the right skills, it becomes very freeing knowing that you're in control of that. Got it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been fantastic. Tell us more about what you're doing and how they can learn their sales skills from you.
Yeah, I think the best place to start with us, we'll give them some hors d'oeuvres, some free little nibbles. have them just join our free Facebook group. Have them go to salesrevolution.pro. So salesrevolution.pro. Got about 38,000 people in that Facebook group. They're all salespeople, solopreneurs. And right when they join, have them check their Facebook Messenger. I'll have one of my stunt doubles on the team message them over like a free training. Like maybe I'll give them the NEPQ 101 mini course. It's a free training. Our CEO breaks down NEPQ a lot more in detail than what we had time to do. And there'll probably be some questions just in that will help them some more. We go live in that group 3 or 4 times a week with different Q&As, different trainings. We're going to give them nibbles in there, of course. If they want really more advanced training like our clients go through, they can always reach out to us and jump on a call with our people. It's no problem. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm going to make sure they have clickable links to all of these things. And yes, keep on. I can't wait to see how far you guys go.
Thanks, Angie. Appreciate being on.
That's all for now. If you want to keep that kick-ass energy high, please take a minute to share this episode with someone that might need a high-octane dose of "you can do it." Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Permission to Kick-Ass podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you stream your podcasts. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and I'm here rooting for you. Thanks for listening, and let's go kick some ass.